So today we're going to be talking about the stationary or bench grinder, as it's sometimes called. This particular grinder that we have access to has been around a while, and so it's an older machine. You can see that this grinder has both a grinding wheel on one end and then a wire brush on the far end. We know that this is an older machine because they don't make them where the wire brush or this end is completely open anymore. They're protected in the guard as well. If you ever experience or have an older one like this in a school shop especially, you're going to want to take a close look at that, because when this thing starts to running, it's a great way for students to get hurt, and so I wouldn't recommend having the wire brush on there if you have that in a school shop. We're going to focus solely on the grinding wheel on this end of the grinder today, and you can take a look and see it's a pretty straightforward tool. Has a housing around this right here, which is the grinding wheel. The grinding wheel is just like angle grinder or anything. You can put metal and things on there and it'll grind. It has a guard on this side and a guard over the top of it. It sits on a shaft and a motor on the inside. I mean, that's pretty much the straightforward piece of this particular grinder. This piece right here is the piece that moves, basically. This is the table or the tool rest where you're going to rest whatever it is that you're going to be grinding on. Now, you'll remember from your safety rules that this particular table or tool rest should be no less than 1/8 of an inch away from the wheel. You don't want it any farther away from that, because this wheel spins in the downward position like that. And so if you're laying a piece of metal on there and there's a huge gap and the wheel catches it and sucks it in, it may bring your hands along with it and grab your fingers. And so that 1/8 of an inch is enough to allow you to not get caught. Now, the grinder is used for a variety of different applications. Specifically, you can grind off pieces that you've cut maybe uneven or have some burrs or whatever the case may be, and you want to grind those on this particular tool. You can also use it for sharpening tools, things like the ends of shovels or hose or maybe lawnmower blades. Any of those kinds of things are great applications for this particular tool. Today I'm just going to give you a quick demo on how to use a tool just grinding a straight piece of metal, just knocking some burrs and different pieces off of it. And so when you take a look at this, when you step up, you want to make sure that you're 1/8 of an inch away and adjust your tool rest. And we're in good shape. We've got our set where we need it to be. And then the other pieces when using this tool is, let's say I'm going to grind on this particular piece of metal right here. Now, when I lay this piece of metal on here to grind, I'm in pretty good shape, but I know that friction is going to cause this piece of metal to heat up. And so I may be enticed to grab a pair of welding gloves and try to wear welding gloves when using this particular grinder. And that's a really dangerous thing to do. You never, ever wear gloves when operating a bench grinder or an angle grinder or anything for that matter, because it's a great way to lose a finger. Gloves, even no matter how well they fit, have a tendency to catch and things like that. And if they catch on this wheel as fast as it's spinning, it's pulling your hand and all right into it. And so you never, ever wear gloves. If you have a small piece of metal, instead of wearing the gloves, if you're afraid that it's going to heat up, or even you don't want to get your hands that close, the better option is to take that piece of metal and use a pair of locking pliers, sometimes called vice grips, and grip hold of your metal with the vice grips and lay them on the tool rest. And then as you're using it back and forth, your hands are farther away from the tool, your hands are farther away from the sparks that are going to fly, and you're not going to feel this metal heating up and get burned. The best rule of thumb to know when to use locking pliers and when not to is basically, if you're afraid that it's going to be too hot to hold, get the pliers. Okay? If this piece were slightly longer, maybe 2 or 3 times as long as this, and I was holding it out here, then I probably wouldn't need the pliers. But this sized or even just a little bit bigger, you're going to want to use your locking pliers. Other than that, it's as simple as just getting your piece ready to go, knowing where you want to be, starting it up and going. So now we're ready to go ahead and grind this piece. You can see there's some burrs and some pieces that I want to get ground off of this. I've got it adjusted and solid in my locking pliers, got my safety glasses on, as well as the face shield. You definitely always want to wear both when doing this. The other piece is when you get on here, we're going to move that metal back and forth all the way across the wheel, so that as we're using it, it wears the wheel evenly from one side to the other. You don't want to wear one side off or the middle off more than either edge, because that impacts the way your wheel spins and can damage your grinder in the long run. And so we're going to work our way back and forth evenly at a steady, even pace and get some stuff knocked off. Here we go. That I want to grind across this edge. It's a similar action. I'm going to grip. And I'm just going to start. Now, other than that, you can see where I had to stop. If I needed to get the rest of this piece, I would just flip the piece over in the pliers and go evenly across the other way. With that, the only other safety feature is to make sure that when you're using the bench grinder, that is, when you're done, shut it off and never walk away from the tool until it comes to a complete stop. But never, ever, ever use a piece of metal to shove in there to try to stop the wheel from turning. You need to let it stop naturally on its own. Never try to force it to stop. You can damage your grinding wheel or your tools or yourself. Other than that, we'll see you in class and we'll be practicing on this tool.